Welcome back, everyone. So I wanted to do a update on the James Hutchinson case out of Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and to kind of catch everybody up on where everything is going at this point. They still have not, to this point, recovered James, and they are planning on another recovery effort coming up for this coming weekend. According to Butler County prosecutor, they will this weekend on Saturday be sending out boats, divers, dogs, horses, and people to actually search the shoreline up and down the area from where they said they disposed of James. There is a chance that James's body, as the body decomposes and bloating sets in, may have become dislodged from the bottom of the river where he was possibly entangled in trees and limbs that were at the bottom of the river, and may have the body may have floated up and moved downriver. So a mile and a half downriver, they're going to start from there and work their way back up to the point where they said that they threw him in. Search teams from shore, on horseback, along with dogs, and on foot, looking for any evidence that may, be a value to prosecution of the mother, Brittany Gosmer and Gosney, and her boyfriend, fiance, James Hamilton. Now, additional to that, apparently inmates in the county lockup there haven't been very kind to James Hamilton. So they have moved him to an independent isolation cell. It's a cell that's normally used for inmates that are on suicide watch or have behavioral issues. There is a pod-like area where he can sit and watch TV that is near there, but it's instead of it being locked down, and he'd be there for, if there was a regular inmate situation, that person be in there for 23 hours a day. He's able to come and go from his actual cell, but they're keeping him there away from other inmates because they were kind of like what was happening to Christopher Watts after he was arrested for killing his family. And inmates yelling, why don't you just stick your head in the toilet and finish yourself, and cruel things like that to Christopher Watts, because we all cry a tear when we hear that about Christopher Watts. They're tormenting James Hamilton, so they moved him to this area to get away from that emotional abuse that is going on with him right now from the other inmates. Brittany Gosney, according to an inmate who was recently released from the county jail there, she is keeping to herself, trying to keep away from other inmates, and probably a good idea. Nobody likes somebody who kills their own children, but she stays in her cell most of the day by choice, her own choice. She doesn't have to be on lockdown, but she stays in her cell and reads most of the day. So from that information, we can extrapolate that she does have the ability to read. That was one of the questions, if she was illiterate, or if she could actually read. But apparently she can read. It doesn't say what she's reading, and I don't think they have children's books in prison. Now both of them have their next preliminary trial date, pre-trial date, that is set for May 24th. According to Butler County prosecutor Michael Gosmer, he said that is a go. That May 24th they will have the next portion of the trial, and that they will both be there with their attorneys. Both of them have elected to take attorneys provided by the state, because neither one of them can afford their own attorneys, and neither one of them have made any a real effort to try to bail out. Brittany is on a $2 million bail. 10% of that, it would be $200,000 plus security plus fees. So she'd have to come up with about $210,000 in cash to be able to bond out. She doesn't have, it probably does not even have $200 to her name. James Hamilton is on $750,000 bond, but he has made no attempt to try to bail out, and no bail bondsman from the area has been contacted, from any party seeking to try to bond either one of the two parties out. All right, and additionally, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew what charges they are currently being held in jail on. There are certain charges that are being held that Brittany herself is being held on, and there's other ones that James himself is only being held on. Brittany, it has involuntary manslaughter, murder charges on just her. Child endangerment and tampering with evidence. It is just Brittany's charges. James is gross abuse of a corpse, obstruction of law enforcement, and hindering prosecution. Those are the charges that are being levied against the two. And again, according to the Butler County prosecutor, that additional charges may be forthcoming. But Brittany is the only one right now with the murder charges on her. Could they charge him, down the road with the additional charges on James Hamilton being, the person I'm speaking of? Yes. Could they charge Brittany with more charges between now and trial date? Yes, they could add more charges as well, depending on what the investigation finds out, and the review of how James's sister and brother were treated. I mean, you would think that there'd be additional charges because it has been learned, since this actually all started and the original charges were filed, it was learned that the days leading up to the death of James Hutchinson, that Brittany and her fiance or boyfriend, whatever he is, had gagged the children and used rope and twine to bind the children so they would sit on the floor and not bother them while they lived their lives. And that's an additional crime within itself, but it's sad, that this ever even had to happen. Again, there's so many people out there that would have intervened and taken these three children if they couldn't, have them anymore, or they couldn't afford them, or they felt they were pressured into getting rid of them. But they didn't do that. And there are so many people out there that we don't hear about in the news who are, up against the wall, who feel like they really are pressured. Maybe they will never go to this length to try to get rid of a child or three children, but they feel like they are at their ends with, and they can't do anything for their own children anymore, and it breaks their heart. They care about their children, but just one little thing more is all it takes to push them over the edge. And yet, in a lot of situations out there, ladies and gentlemen, there is nobody to step in and help them. And if they are, it's hard to get a hold of those resources for these people. I'm not saying that's the situation in this case. In this case, we obviously have a mother and a boyfriend, fiance, whatever, his relationship is to her. We have a parent, two-parent household here where drugs and alcohol were number one. Taking care of three children were, second, third, or fourth on the list, somewhere in there, but they were not a high priority. And according to those statements that have been released out there, a lot of people knew that. But yet, at the same time, maybe they are holding out hope that they'd snap it all together, and start living their lives the right way. Whatever the reason might be. But people knew about the situation within this household, and nobody did anything. Nobody stepped in to even help the father, who, James's father, who lost custody and only got visitation for James. And he was a loving, doting father, according to all reports. He just didn't have money. But She didn't have money either. But the way the system's set up is they don't want to take a child from a mother. And it's sad. Even if that mother is not the best parent for a child. So thank you for joining me today for this quick update on James Hutchinson. This Saturday, again, they will be out searching for James again.